Welcome to the True Demon Lord Show. I am the True Demon Lord Franco, and today we're going to be talking about Denizens of the Warp. So, what is Denizens of the Warp? It's a stratagem, a chaos demon stratagem to be more specific, that lets us, when we bring a unit in from Deep Strike, come 3 inches or more, 3 inches or more away from an enemy unit, rather than 9 or 6 inches or more if you're in the shadows. So, it's quite a common stratagem that a lot of armies and a lot of or every army seems to have a detachment that kind of has it, or even a unit that kind of has it as well. But we are one of the original armies to have it, and I'm just going to run you through some very basic scenarios, as well as maybe some more advanced things that you may not have thought of, just how to get the most out of that stratagem in your games, whether it be for scoring denying primaries and scoring secondaries, or even being able to get some better charges in, making advantage or taking advantage of it with Bellacor's Shadow Bubble. So yeah, we're just going to show you some pretty cool tips just so you can use them in your games and hopefully get those all important victories. So before we get into it, please leave a like and subscribe. It is very much appreciated. It helps out massively. And please leave any feedback, comments. I'm always ready to listen to other demon players and their thoughts and even just advice for what you want to see, as well as maybe just some scenarios I may not have even spoken about. So, enough of the plugs, let's get straight into it. So, the first example we're going to show here is quite a simple one. We're going to use Denizens of the Warp to deny our opponent's primary point. So, as you can see here, for this example, we've got a unit of basic intercessors. They've moved up to this objective. They're not fully screening it, so there is a nice gap on the other side of the medium L. And so what we're going to do is we are going to spend RCP in our movement phase to drop this unit from reserves 3 inches away using Denizens of the Warp. So, of course, this is only going to work on a unit that is in reserves, but this could be a unit that you have picked up in at the end of your opponent's turn using the Realm of Chaos, where you're uppy downy straight, and then you can bring them back down using this, or it could just be a unit you've already got in reserve. And the idea is quite simple. You're just deploying them 3 or more inches away. In this case, we're just going to assume that they've left just enough space for us to get 5 models on, but that's fine because it's going to deny the primary because they've also got five. We have 5 models worth 2 OC, they have 5 models worth 2 OC. In these kind of situations where you're not able to take, but you're only able to contest, this is a good time to always check with your opponent that they have no way to increase the OC or be able to get any other models on this objective. Basically, just lay the question to your opponent: if I do this and I drop 5 OC2 models on this objective to contest against your 5 OC2 models, is there anything you can do between now and you scoring primary points to take this back? And then that's when your opponent will be hopefully truthful and will let you know, nope, there is not, therefore, cool. Or if they say, yes, I can do this, then you adapt to it. You either abandon this strategy or you play around it and, yeah, and move around it like that. So let's just say our opponent have played a bit better with their screening and they've made it so, we're just going to do this roughly, but they've made it so there is maybe just the tiniest gap. So you can no longer get enough pink horrors on subjective anymore. We can only get, say, maybe two. So there's a couple things we can do here, right? We can either set ourselves up with the Lord of Change in the previous turn, which you probably don't want to do in the open too much, but if you are, then you can move a Lord of Change or something with some good shooting over, shoot, try and kill as many as you can, hopefully enough that you can then contest it. If not, this is something you look at going into the end of your opponent's turn. Before the thing I always do if I want to do up and down, I will always look at my opponent's primary to see if I can deny it with Denizens of the Warp. I'll always measure it out and see what options I have. So say I do have the Lord of Change on the board at the end of my opponent's turn too. I will then see what space I've got on the board, seeing that, okay, there isn't enough spot to drop down 10 pink horrors, but there is enough of a gap for me to be able to drop this Lord of Change 3 inches away. And then by doing that, using the Lord of Change's wing, let's just assume that your opponent's left like that. Again, you want to check to make sure that when you do this, it is going to work. You don't want to assume it works, get into your movement phase, and then realize when you're dropping, oh no, I can't actually do it. Always make sure you're measuring. And then in this case, though they are still out OCing us, the Lord of Change should have enough damage that we can kill at least 3 of these guys, therefore taking the objective. So, next example, we've drawn deploy teleport homers, or as it will now be known in Pariah Nexus, establish locus, or we've drawn behind enemy lines, or engage, or we've taken them as fixed. Our opponent is doing a really good job of screening. As you can see in this small little rectangular building here, they've got 5 Marines. Up here in this medium L in no man's land, again 5 more Marines. The medium L in the middle of their deployment, 5 Marines. 5 more Marines. Again, rough examples, we're just using units of 5 models. They could have tanks, they could have anything really here. But the idea is our opponent is screening out really well. We need to score points, right? And say we've drawn locus or behind or whatever it is. This is simple. So before, for deploy teleport homers or establish locuses now, we would have just taken this unit of little guys and we just would have dropped them down. And it would have been 40 points, giving us 4 victory points, and you don't care if they die. Now, unfortunately, since they are OC0 in Pariah Nexus, they will no longer be able to do actions, which is sad. Um, but they can still score positional secondaries like deploy teleport, not deploy teleport homer, sorry, behind enemy lines and engage on all fronts, etc., etc. So you can still drop them in to get those extra quarters that we might not be able to get through anywhere else. But say we need to do an action, right? Um, so instead, we'll drop, say for this example, Ibisa Nurgle. Now, Ibisa Nurgle is quite tough. They can generally take a bit of a punch, and are a bit of an annoying thing to drop in your opponent's backfield. Just be careful whenever you're doing this. Whenever you're dropping something to score points, you've got to be aware of what is around that unit. So, what do I mean by that? I mean, what is your opponent's Overwatch options? Have they got some really powerful torrent weapons that they've set up to kind of counter this? Have they got a unit that Overwatches on fives or loads of reroll, sustains, and lethals and stuff like that? Or, like for example, Sisters of Battle, Adeptus Sororitas, have the Castigator tank. Now, their big turret gun, whenever they hit a unit with that unit now requires to take a battle shock test. So, if we drop this piece of Nurgle here and they decide to Overwatch with it, they get one hit with that weapon, we are forced to take a battle shock on our leadership 7. If we fail, that's a wasted stratagem because we've dropped 2 inches away and we can no longer do an action if we are setting up to, say, do locus / deploy or something like that. So just be aware when doing this what your opponent has ready to be able to react to this. Now, again, like we've already said, this is where asking questions to your opponent is very, very important. Always, always ask questions. Even if it seems silly, even if you may have already asked it, there is no problem with doing it again. Just before you do this, say to your opponent, do you have any scary Overwatch? Do you have anything that will trigger battle shocks? Do you have anything that can auto hit? Do you have anything that realistically will kill this beast and Nurgle? And that's where your opponent will be like, I have this, but it's not likely to kill the beast. Or they might go, yes, I can trigger your battle shock through this, or etc., etc. So always be wary of what your opponent could do. But again, another easy way to score some victory points using Denizens of the Warp. So for the next example, I'm going to show you how to use Denizens of the Warp to kind of prevent out of phase movement for your opponent. For this example, we got Phantasm. So this could be any kind of ability or stratagem that lets your opponent move either a set amount of inches or the 6 inches or something when you either finish or the end of the turn. Sorry. This is going to be a bit harder to do if they can do it when your opponent finishes their movement, because obviously we're relying on the end, us doing our deep strikes before they do it. But if your opponent has an ability that lets or a stratagem that lets them move a unit at the end of your movement phase, then this is a good way to counter it. So as you can see, we've moved this unit 6 blood crushers up, ready to just walk over this unit of swooping hawks. We need to get rid of them. They've been a pain in the butt. We've got no prisoners, and this is a good way to stop no prisoners or whatever it is. So what we're going to do is before our opponent gets to trigger um, Phantasm and be able to move this unit somewhere that makes either the charge harder, or they could even be near a wall, in which case they could maybe move for the wall. So that's another way to kind of be wary of. So what we are going to do here, sorry, is we're going to take this unit of pink horrors and we are going to denizens of the warp them roughly like that. So as you can see, we're still within 3 inches of 2 inches, sorry, of another model. But this is just roughly, but the idea is we are over 3 inches away from the swooping hawks. we're going to say that in the movement phase we drop something behind this wall. Or we already have something there, so this unit can't go through the wall. So instead of being able to get away, say this unit can no longer say roll a 5 and go like that and make the charge harder. They can move there, but they're going to get charged easier. The only real place they've got now is they can go like here. They can move towards the pink as they really want, but is a you've done the job of stopping this unit from getting away. So like I said, this is only going to really be effective against an ability that procs at the end of the movement phase, not after you finish moving with one of your units. Um, just be aware as well when it comes to bringing in reserves, those type of units that let an enemy unit or model move after one of your units finishes a normal move, an advanced move, a fallback move, whatever it is. Um, Reserves actually gets around that because when you're bringing in a unit from reserves, that unit classes as making a normal move, but never finishes said move. Therefore, it will never trigger those type of abilities. So this is another good way to get around it. Say you just want to be annoying, you don't really want to let a unit that triggers their movement. If you drop with it or if you come within 9 of it. So again, we're about to get into that in a minute, but this is a good way to stop, say, Phantasm in this example. So the final example we're going to show here, we're going to kind of kill two birds with one stone. So we've chosen something I thought would be quite cool and also kind of get across the importance of the situation here. We're against Grey Knights. We've got a nice Grandmaster Dreadnought over here on the opponent's battlefield objective. We've got two normal Dreadnoughts here, one in the medium L here in the middle, and then one here behind this rectangle, just doing a bit of screening, right? So you want to just be able to cripple your opponent. You want to be able to hit them hard. You want to be able to kill or at least badly hurt some of their really key units. How are we going to do it? Well, they're all at the back of the board. They're screening out pretty decently. How do we do this? So, of course, Bellicor has his portable shadow bubble. So he's always got a 6-inch bubble of shadows around him, which means we can drop units wholly within 6 inches of him and 6 inches away from the opponent's units because of the Warp Rift detachment rule for our demonic Persian detachment. How are we going to implement that? How are we going to implement that? How are we going to use it? So we're going to take Bellicor. We're going to uppy downy him. Say we had Selection Reserve with the Bloodthirster and we had Bellicor on the board. We're going to spend a CP, pick up Bellicor, pick up the Bloodthirster. So now we're going to bring down Bellicor. And we're going to bring him down using the Denizens of the Warp stratagem, meaning he can drop in this gate because our opponent has screened at 9, but they've forgotten or just not really thought about doing screening out for the 3 inches because maybe you've explained it, but they've not kind of taken in the levity and the importance of the whole Bellicor drop pod trick that we can employ and we can use. So as you can see, this is just an example. This could be anything. It could just be basic units here screening with an important unit at the back. I have done something similar against Eldar where they've had some, swooping hawks and Shadow Spectre screening, but they had the Incarnate at the back, and I've done the same here to bring in Shalaxi to be able to deal with it. So as you can see, we've now brought down Bellicor using Denizens of the Warp. So now he's down on the board. The Shadow Bubble he brings with him now enters the board. It doesn't belong before he comes down, so he can't land in the Shadow Bubble or his own Shadow Bubble, but now he's on the board, it now is on the board. So now what we're going to do is we're going to drop Shalapsi 6 inches away from the Grandmaster Dreadnought here, and we're going to drop the Bloodthirster. And for this situation, he's going to be 6 inches from here, and 6 inches or a bit more than 6 inches from here. We've got a bit more movement if we want to move it forward, depending on what Dreadnought you wanted to kill. Let's say we want to go for this one here in the middle, and obviously the Grandmaster. So we've got two 6-inch charges. We've still got some shooting. Like, I'm quite certain Shalaxi has a good chance at killing the Dreadnought unless they really spike the 4-up ones. The Bloodthirst, on the other hand, can be a bit swingy. So Bellicor and the Bloodthirst will put their shooting here. Shalaxi will probably maybe do a bit of split shooting, depending. And then we move in. But the idea is, we're going to make our charges, hopefully with a free reroll on Shalaxi and a CP reroll should we need it from the Bloodthirster. Bellicor can't charge, but it doesn't matter. We've got two of our biggest combat assets into combat with two of our opponent's biggest assets back here. And, this is a really good way to not just deal with some really important units, but this is game changing. This will just get in your opponent's head, especially if you manage to kill them both. We end up killing them both. Shalaxi say there might be something else on the objective, but, Shalaxi has a good chance to take the objective. The Bloodthirster kills that Dread Knight. Now your opponent's in trouble. Now they've got Be'lakor, Shalaxi, and a Bloodthirster in their backfield. They've lost two massively important units. They're just going to struggle now. Like, they'll maybe be able to pick off one of these three, Shalaxi being the hardest one to kill here. But yes, as you can see, using this, again, just a general scenario, this could be against anything. 12-inch deep strike denial will ruin this, unfortunately. Um, but it's just another way to maximize Denizens of the Warp, in addition to Be'lakor Shadow Bubble, being able to get him into any gap and then spitting out 6 inches with really important units like Shalaxi and a Bloodthirster. You could also have Scarbrand, Blood Crushers, even Great Unclean ones should you need it. But yeah, just in my opinion, one of the best tricks that we can pull off with both stratagems and abilities. So hopefully you've learned a few things from that. So if there's anything else you can think of that you may have used in your game, some cool little tricks and tips that I haven't used or shown here, then please let me know down below. But yeah, so just some of these things very basic, but even some of them, like, it's just basic things you can employ in your games if you didn't know how to use it before. Hopefully that gives you a way to use them in your games, things, and just different things to think about. And just remember, these are basic scenarios. You will have to adapt these depending on what you're against and the exact situation you may be in. But the basic groundwork there to work off of is all there. So thank you for tuning in. Again, very much appreciated. Please like and subscribe. It helps out massively. Check out Facebook and Instagram to keep up with all our uploads, as well as my hobby progress and tournament progress, all that kind of stuff. So, thank you for tuning in, and I shall catch you all in the next one.